Well, hello and welcome back to Blue Yonder Moto. I'm Alan, and today doesn't look particularly spring-like, does it? But believe me, it is spring. Certainly, you know, I don't need the lining in the jacket. I've been able to turn the heated grips off. So overall, it's actually been a pretty good riding day. And it's on days like this that if you're anything like me, you start thinking about all the trips and tours that you're planning on doing in 2026. Now, as you probably know, I've been riding for more years than I care to think about, 40 plus, and I've done quite a few trips and adventures in that time, both in the UK, in Europe, in Africa, and also in New Zealand. So I've had quite a good extensive experience, if you like, of riding distances and riding on trips and tours. So I thought what we'd do is go along on a bit of a ride and talk about some of the tricks and tips that I've picked up over the years. So without further ado, as they say, come on, let's get on this bike and let's have a chat. If you've got lots of big continental miles to do, and you need to cover ground fairly quickly, you need to use motorways or dual carriageways or main roads, and as I say, cover ground quickly, then a big sports tourer or a big adventure bike, a litre plus adventure bike, probably makes sense. But if your touring is more 4 or 5 days at a time, and you're doing this sort of roads, country roads, then a little bike like this, a 500cc or a 650, probably up to 750 actually, on the new breed of light adventure bikes, for want of a better term, they make a lot of sense. And this bike, it's nice and light, it's 196 kilos, wet, that's a wet weight, so it makes it nice and manageable. The last thing you want is a huge heavy bike to be manhandling, and don't forget, once you've added luggage and once you've added fuel, your 200 kilo bike is probably the best part of 230, 240 kilos. So just do the maths on the weights of the bikes and what you're adding on to it. So you shouldn't underestimate just how much effort is required and strength and stamina is required to handle a big heavy bike during the day. And if you're doing roads that you're not familiar with and you're a little bit tense, then that can make it even worse. So if you're on your mountain switchbacks, a nice little light bike like this makes so much sense. It's so much easier to throw around and maneuver around on the road, as well as at dead weight and parking. So in terms of comfort, you want something that has got, like this, a nice, decent, upright riding position. So you're not putting excessive weight on your wrists and on your shoulders, your back. Your knees and your hips are in a comfortable position. So it's important that you've got a bike that fits you properly, that's not too big for you, so you're stretching, but equally isn't too small for you, so you feel like a leggy 16-year-old on a fizzy moped. You want to be something that fits you nicely, you're nice and comfortable with, you're nice and relaxed in. And then we're talking about the seats, the seat comfort. And seat comfort, I think, is quite a personal thing. What one person thinks is a comfortable seat, a saddle, another person finds uncomfortable. Personally, I find this standard saddle on the NX absolutely ideal, and I have done successive long days in the saddle on this bike, and I've had no problems whatsoever. So it is important, as I say, part of the fit of the bike is the seat, is the saddle. Does that suit you? And this one suits me. So I can't stress too much how important it is that you get a bike with a saddle that you're comfortable with and that you fit. Because one of the things that we probably don't want to admit, but is a biological fact, is as you're getting older, you lose that muscle mass, don't you? And one of those areas where you lose the muscle mass is in your butt. What was nice and tight and firm back in your youth isn't anymore. It's a little bit flabby. Despite all your best efforts, it does get a little bit flabby. So your miles to numb bum decreases with age. So as I say, you can sort of stretch that out, eke it out a little bit with a much better saddle. Then we need to talk about what is sensible mileage. What sort of mileage should you be looking at per day? Well, a lot of that is, again, is individual. How much riding you do. If you're a regular rider and you're riding quite a lot, then obviously your resilience to mileage will be that much higher. So if you don't ride regularly, don't be too ambitious. And I think that applies to everybody, actually. Don't be too ambitious. Don't be sucked into this sort of pressure, invisible pressure, if you like, where you feel that you've got to do big miles. Touring isn't about doing big miles. You know, personally, I sort of set a sort of cap of about, I feel comfortable doing about 200 miles a day, which is about, what, 320 kilometres, that sort of figure. So that's the sort of mileage that I'm generally doing, and I've been doing for a number of years. And if I go much beyond that, you know, and I do that for a number of days, then, you know, I tend to start to feel it. And I think I've got quite good stamina in the saddle, and I'm a pretty good rider. So as I say, don't put yourself under pressure to feel that you've got to do big miles. There's no prizes given out, is there, for doing 300 plus miles? And if you watch, I don't know if you watch the Midlife Motorcycle Diaries husband and wife team, they do quite a lot of touring videos, and if you watch them, the sort of maximum mileage that they're doing per day is about 100, 120. They're not doing big miles at all. But their focus is on actually, and I think it's the right focus really, is on actually seeing the country. So you don't want to be whizzing along and not really taking in the countryside that you're actually riding through. So as I say, it's really important that you don't put yourself under pressure of deadlines, that you have that luxury of being able to stop when you want to and take things in. Because what is the point in tearing through the countryside and not having the time to stop and take it all in? And that's, for me, that is the joy of touring. You're going to places that you haven't ridden in before, and you're learning things. You know, you're seeing things from a different perspective, and, you know, seeing different cultures and different people. So as I say, give yourself plenty of time. Don't be overly ambitious when it comes to your mileage. Okay then, just to interrupt the ride very briefly, something that occurred to me as I was riding along, I thought I'd better stop and say, is, you know, don't feel the need, when we're going back to these distances, don't feel the need to be the next Ewan and Charlie or Itchy Boots. You don't have to cross continents, you don't have to ride to Morocco to have an authentic adventure on a bike. If you live in the UK, you can ride basically a couple of 100 miles in any direction, and you're going to be into some fantastic riding and great countryside. So if you've never been to Cornwall on the bike, you've never been to Wales, you've not been to North Yorkshire or Scotland, get on the bike and go. And another thing is, if you're a beginner, if you're a newbie to riding and touring, consider joining a group. I used to run tours, and it's great fun going in a group. You know, it's not just the riding, it's the social experience as well. So give that some thought. I think it's something that's certainly worth considering, as I say, if you're a newbie. So anyway, enough of that. Let's get back on the bike and let's carry on with the ride. So if I'm going away, say, for 5 days or more, what I like to do is build in a rest day. That can be a day off the bike, or it can be a very short mileage day. But whatever, you don't want to be doing 200, 250, 300 miles day after day after day, because you will be exhausted. By the third or fourth day, your bum will be aching. You won't be enjoying it. It'll become an endurance event rather than something that's supposedly a pleasure. You know, I like to try and make sure if I'm having a rest day that I'm staying somewhere, stopping over somewhere, should I say. I'm stopping somewhere that's interesting, so I've planned it in advance. That's going to be my rest day, and we'll have a day off the bike and we'll do a little bit of sightseeing. Or as I say, you do a day when it's only 40, 50 miles, something like that. So one of the other options for the rest day is to do a circular ride. So again, plan in advance a nice 50, 60 miles easy ride around the local countryside to where you're staying. And as I say, that or having a day off the bike makes a massive difference. Okay, just to interrupt the video very briefly, could I please ask you, if you're not already a subscriber, would you please consider subscribing? It really does help the channel grow and get exposure on YouTube. And if you're liking the video, give it a thumbs up, give it a like. Okay, back to the video. So now, one of the other things that you need to think about with your 150 to your 200 mile day is to plan your stops. So think about your fuel stops. Wow, this is the River Trent, folks, and as you can see, we've had so much water, it's gone over the bank on the left hand side. Wow. Yeah, so as I was saying, it's for your 150, 200 mile day, plan your stops. So think about your fuel stops, think about your lunch stops and your breaks in the afternoon. As I was saying, when I used to lead groups, thank you, when I used to lead groups, I used to plan a stop about every hour, hour and a half, that sort of figure, because people do get fatigued when they're not used to riding long distances and long days in the saddle, hours in the saddle. They do get tired. So as I say, it's really important to build in your breaks and to make them reasonable breaks. You know, don't go for breaks where you're hanging around a petrol station or whatever. Try and find a pub, think about it in advance. Find a pub and book some time, book some seats in a pub. That's what I always used to do. I used to look at pubs en route and thought, that looks quite good, they do lunches. And then you ring up and you say, look, I've got a group of 5 or 6 people. We're expected to be there about 1 o'clock next Wednesday, can you book us in? And they're more than happy to do that. And as I say, that just makes the whole experience that much more pleasurable. And also, if you're riding in groups, you need to think about safety. And as I say, if you're taking a group, very much you have to think about safety. There's nothing wrong with giving people a briefing before you actually start your ride and saying, we've got some pretty tricky roads coming up. There's some severe bends, so don't go barreling into the bends blind, because they may tighten up on you. So there's that. And the other thing to be aware of is that most of the accidents that happen in the first 5 miles and the last 5 miles. So the first 5 miles, people aren't really switched on. They're checking everything. Is that secure? Is this secure? They're looking at the dash. They're not really into the ride. And the last 5 miles, they're thinking about the end of the ride. They're thinking about getting to the bar for a beer, etc. So your concentration lapses. Plus the fact you're probably quite tired as well. So as I say, watch that first 5 miles and watch that last 5 miles. They're usually the most dangerous. So let's talk about luggage. Do you need 3-box hard luggage or do you go for soft luggage? My personal preference is to go for soft luggage for a number of reasons. First reason is the hard luggage. It's very bulky, it takes up a lot of space, and also it adds quite a lot of weight. And it's not as flexible as to what you can cram into it. Whereas with a soft bag, I've got a 50 litre Oxford soft bag, aqua bag. And I find that absolutely brilliant. And I can strap it to the back of this particular bike. I've got a rack on there as well. And it's absolutely fantastic. And I can get everything that I need with that and a tank bag. I can get everything I need in there for 4 or 5 days away, no problem at all. And the other thing with hard bags, hard luggage, is that I've seen far too many instances of people tipping over where the side cases catch on another bike or catch a pole or a post when they're parking and the bike just tips over. I've seen it, as I say, numerous times when I've been away with groups. I've led groups for many years, and that happens more times than you would expect. And it never ends well. It usually ends with something that's broken, possibly, slight injuries as well. So, as I say, it's something you've got to be really careful of. So, as I was saying, my preference is for soft luggage. And try and pack light. We all make the mistake, I think, of packing far more than we actually need. I'm as guilty as anybody about doing that. So the night before you're going, make sure that you've already pre-packed, and then go back and look at it again and try and take things out that you probably don't need. And as I say, go as light as possible for all the reasons that we've already spoken about. And when you're packing, make sure you've checked the weather forecast. What's the weather forecast looking like while you're away? And I always try and take at least one set of gear that's suitable for cold, wet weather. and also one set of gear for when it's warm and hot, and that you're, as I say, you're not actually stifling. I find this jacket for UK climate is actually pretty good on everything but the really hottest day. So it's what, 9-10 degrees today, and this jacket is perfect. It's also waterproof. It's a Merlin wax cotton jacket, but there are lots of other good jackets out there. So as I say, wear something that's flexible, it's got plenty of pockets, that you're comfortable in, it's got plenty of stretch and won't restrict your movement, it's not too bulky. Okay then, to summarise, get out there, use the bike. You know, don't be daunted if you have to ride on your own. If anything, you'll find it even more satisfying than riding with a group. So as I say, the key thing is to get out there and have fun, because believe me, you won't regret it. Okay, so that kind of wraps it up, doesn't it? I've been Alan, this has been Blue Yonder Moto, and until the next time, please remember, keep it shiny side up, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now.